Hey guys, Pat with Off Pavement. Well, another rainy day here in Southern California. I know, what an odd statement. Rainy day in Southern California. Just doesn't work, right? Hey, I just wanted to let you know we've got a lot of stuff that's been coming in, and we are about to make another kind of a big jump on this build, on the Willys build. Big plans, little budget. And I just kind of wanted to go over a few of the things that we've received over the last few days and kind of talk a little bit about why we bought the things that we bought and why we're using the things that we're using. And again, as you know, this is a build that was based around a build, an article that was done by Vern Simons at Four Wheel and Off-Road Magazine. He's one of their tech editors. And he built a 49 Willys for UA 2016. And in his article, he talked a little bit about building a truck of your own or a vehicle of your own in a two-car garage like he did. So we're actually going to do that. We're actually doing it now. So it is a project that we're doing in our two-car garage, along with the studio that you see here is also part of that. We also have an XJ, and we do a lot of trips and things like that. And we're trying to build up our YouTube channel. So before we get started, I'll just ask you right out of the gate, if you please go over to YouTube, OFFPVMT, and subscribe. And take a look at some of the videos over there, and like and comment. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd like to know what you think, and if you have questions, I'd be happy to help you out there. So over the last few days, we've picked up some new products, and one of the things that we're working on now, since we have our frame completely cleaned off of all of the non-essential items, old body mounts, things like that. As you know, we're using a 97 TJ Wrangler frame. So we've had to cut off all the motor mounts, we've had to cut off all of the body mounts, and all the things that just don't really pertain to what we're doing here. We've taken the rear section from the axle rise in the back, and we've cut that off right at the top of the apex and extended that out almost 48 inches, if not a little bit more, to accommodate the bed on the Willys and get us the 118-inch wheelbase that we need. One of the things that's going to be required of that, in order to do that, is we're building a 4-link rear suspension to install the GM 14-bolt 1-ton full float axle that we have for the back of this rig. And with that 4-link, there's a lot of different parts and things that we need to get to make all that happen. We bought some stuff from Rough Stuff Specialties in the past, and I like the stuff that they're building. And one of the things that we have is their bracket for the lower and upper control arms. This essentially mounts underneath the frame, so the frame rail actually sits in here. This is not all of it. There's another piece that comes in on this side. And basically this all welds together. This gives you almost straight out to the axle, and then we've got a 10-degree that comes off to the center section. This is a great piece. What I like about it, and it seems to be kind of status quo with a majority of the companies now making this stuff, is this stuff's all being laser cut or water jet cut in some form or fashion. So the engineering and the design work is done for you, and then it's shipped to you as kind of a builder piece. So you're actually having to do the final welding on everything, which I think is kind of cool, because a lot of times when we do these builds, they're not cookie cutter, and so there's a little bit of massaging and tweaking and things that have to go on, and sometimes if it's all welded together, it's not as easy, or it is a big disadvantage. So in this case, you can throw a couple of tacks on there, get it in place. If you have to do any kind of modifications or massaging, you can do that, and you're not having to deal with a fully welded unit. So that's what I really like about Rough Stuff and the stuff that they're doing over there. So this is a really good piece. I'm looking forward to that. Getting this installed. This is another item that we found on Rough Stuff's website, and this is, as you know, the TJ frame is a 2x4 rectangle tube, so it's fully boxed. On the back section of this, we did exactly that. We followed through with the 2x4 boxed in tubing, increased the wall thickness a little bit, and we capped the end of the truck off with essentially a bumper of the same material. And I think we're all accustomed to the triangular shaped shackle, D-ring, whatever you call them, the mounts that they have that mount to a lot of the aftermarket bumpers. But this thing was really cool. This is the D-ring shackle mount that they had online, and this fits a 2x4 inch piece of rectangle tubing. This thing is 3/4 of an inch thick. It has a little over a 1-inch hole through the center, and you can mount this way or this way. We're going to actually opt to do it this way because I think the best thing is that shackle will hang here and kind of stay within the confines of this. My thought is if it hangs here like this, that shackle's always kind of dangling down there, and kind of some low-hanging fruit there that we don't necessarily need. So 20 bucks a piece. 2 of these instantly went into the shopping cart, and we bought them that night. Most of these D-ring, or most of the shackle mounts, it's just 2 sides. You have this side and that side and a little bit across the top. The beauty on this is that you get a full weld all the way around here and then flip it around, and you get to do the same thing over here. So this is definitely a stout little unit. So I'm pretty excited about that. Body mounts, we'll be manufacturing our own body mounts. We're going to be using a 2x6 rectangle tubing, 120 wall. That's going to be essentially because our cab needs to come up a little bit higher, and so we kind of need to do kind of like a body lift, so to speak. And so with the 2x6 material, we have a 2-inch platform to weld to, and then we get that little bit of rise that we need. That's going to, but it's also going to allow us to get a full weld down the 4-inch side of the frame rail and then across the top as well. So we're going to get a good solid mount going there. We'll be doing a urethane mount on top of that that'll sandwich between the actual cab and the actual frame mounts. And for that, we picked up the Daystar. It's kind of hard to see black on black. The Daystar, this is for the CJ5 and 7, I believe. It has a part number on it. Looks like M02201. This was a full kit. This is all it is. So we'll use that. We'll sandwich that in there. It's a good piece. It's kind of hard. It's probably, I'm going to guess it's probably a 95 durometer, which is nice. So you get a little bit of flex, but it's not too stiff. 95 durometer. Yeah, I know that because I used to work for the other urethane suspension company. We'll just leave it at that. So that's what we've got there. Moving on, because we're using a TJ Wrangler frame and we're using a GM 14 bolt full floater axle, also in the front we're using a Dana 60 Kingpin that we picked up. That's a GM, so that's a passenger drop. Doing that, there would be, in a lot of situations, there'd be a lot of engineering that takes place in order to make all this stuff work and all fit. One of the things that Vern did on his build was he utilized, basically, not only did he utilize the TJ frame, he utilized the TJ suspension, which I thought was kind of cool. In a couple conversations I've had with him about it, he said the vehicle actually wheels pretty well. So going with that, we decided to kind of stay with that. So we're going to use the TJ suspension. And we found a company that actually does conversions for a TJ LJ that will allow you to bolt in a GM 14 bolt. And the company's called Artec Industries, and found them online. And the reason we decided to go ahead and pull the trigger, so to speak, was that their kit basically has every part and component that you need to weld to this GM 14 bolt that will allow you to stick it under a TJ or an LJ. So it's a done deal. Some really nice pieces. This truss, this thing's heavy duty. Let me grab this thing. This is the centerpiece that goes, obviously goes across the top of the third member, grabs the axle tubes. This thing is pretty stout. I'm looking at this. This looks like 3/16 material. Everything appears to be laser cut. You get good precise fits. So you get the third member. You also get, where did they go? They are right here. You get these would be the upper control arms. These actually mount to the top of that brace. So you have that's there. You get the lower control arm mounts with that kit. You get the shock mounts. Again, the shock mounts for a TJ or an LJ, so you need to have those. You get the lower spring perches. So everything that goes on that 14 that you need to put it underneath a TJ or an LJ is in that kit. There's some couple other pieces that go on here. Is a center section with a cap, so that you can retain the spring once you get it in there. Really clean looking parts. I'm pretty pleased with what we've gotten so far. We're going to start placing an order here pretty quick for all of our DOM tubing and for all of the threaded bungs and Johnny joints that we're going to use on this. We're going to go with the Johnny joints primarily because while rod ends or spherical bearings or whatever you want to call them, while they are robust, they also transmit a lot of noise. And I don't want to say they require a lot of maintenance, but there's not a lot of forgiveness in a Heim joint. There's a little more in a Johnny joint because you're dealing with a center section there that is, for the most part, a urethane bushing, a little bit stiffer than like a rubber bushing that you would commonly find in like an OE control arm on a TJ or an LJ or a Cherokee or any other Jeep, even a JK. The Johnny joint is a unique little device that is actually rebuildable. It has a center section that's very similar to what a Heim joint would have with a misalignment spacer on it. So it's a neat item. They're not that expensive, and I think they're a little more forgiving in terms of shock loads. You know, we're not going to run high speeds like a trophy truck, so those types of shock loads probably aren't there. But if you want to be streetable and you want to ride around in the street, that's a lot less noise and vibration that's being transferred through the suspension, through the Heim joints, and ultimately back up into the chassis and the seat of your pants. So we're going to go with the Johnny joint. I think that's probably the way to go, and we're obviously we're going to get ready here pretty quick and pull the trigger on that. We got quite a few of those coming, and I think we're going to get started here actually tearing down our axles. We're going to start with that 14 bolt, get everything shaved off of there, get it cleaned up, and start getting everything in place, and finally hang a portion of the suspension and axle off of this frame. We're moving forward. Like I said, we're trying to get set up. We want to get chosen for UA 2019. I mean, it looks like a sweet little adventure. I'd like to have it done by March, April, but I don't think that's possible. I think that's a little over optimistic, but we're moving towards that. So there you go. There's our parts list, and that's just the back half of the truck. You can see there's a lot that goes into doing something from the ground up, and there's a lot of engineering that takes place. That's why we've chosen the companies that we've chosen to work with and purchasing the products that we're purchasing, because a lot of that work's already been done for us. I'd love it if you guys would go over to YouTube and hit subscribe. And if you've got any comments or questions, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to answer your questions, and I'd like to know what you think about some of the stuff that we're doing with this truck and some of the other videos that we have up there. If you have the opportunity, take a run over to Instagram as well and give us a like on Instagram and follow us there too as well. It's OFFPVMT. I'm Pat with Off Pavement. We'll see you out on the trail.